Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dee-Brief with Dr. D. I am your host, Dr. Darlene Williams, but you can call me Dr. D. And I am so excited to record this episode for Women's History Month with none other than my sister, my friend. She is so amazing in all the ways. Her name is Dr. Tammy Pate. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Dr. D.
It's so nice to see you. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us today.
Oh, yeah. It's a pleasure being here with you.
Oh, thank you so much, so much. So, this episode is a special episode for Women's History Month, and it is entitled Breaking Barriers. Dr.
Wow.
Tammy Pate on MWBE's Leadership and Legacy. I like to start my shows by allowing our guests to introduce themselves. I could say all the wonderful things about you, but if you could just introduce yourself to our audience, tell them who you are, where you work currently, and why MWBEs are so important to you.
Wow. So, thank you for an opportunity to talk with your audience about the important work that we are doing, and also in this month of March to center women and the work that we are doing around the city, this great city of New York. Supporting not just small businesses, but supporting communities. So, my name is Dr. Tammy Pate. I am the Chief Officer of Business Development for New York City Public Schools. It is a awesome job. But I have had quite a few awesome jobs in New York City public schools. Prior to this position, I have always been in what we call pedagogy, like pedagogic leadership.
Mhm.
And so pedagogy is anything connected to teaching and learning. I was a teacher, I was an assistant principal, I was a principal. I was a deputy superintendent. I was a superintendent. I have
Wow.
trained more than 400 current school leaders, school and district leaders. So it's been my joy to do this work with my whole self. And for the last 2 years, I have launched the Office of Business Development on behalf of New York City Public Schools. And that work centers on identifying small businesses that we grow up in order to support them in getting contracting opportunities with not just New York City Public Schools, but with the city of New York.
Wow. Wow. See, I told you, listeners, she's just a full professional and leader. So I'm so glad we had you introduce yourself. Amazing. And congratulations on just your years of dedication to New York City children,
Yeah.
to our public school system. I'm a forever learner. So I really, truly believe that education is so important. And
Yeah.
education is really the key to transformation. So thank you for doing
That's
that.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a pleasure. It
Thank
really
you.
is.
So, what inspired you on your journey into leadership to
Mm,
advocate for MWBEs? We're talking about leadership here, and I want to make sure that we hear everyone's testimony, right? Because we all became leaders because of different
mhm,
circumstances and different
mhm.
things that happen in our lives. But what has inspired you to stay on this trajectory as a leader?
Yeah, I think that small business and just entrepreneurism uh, is a sort of a key piece of all of our DNA
Mhm.
because of some of the legacy in this country. We, as people of color, we're not always allowed access to the sort of proper job thing, right? Like we could not, despite having the talent, the intelligence, the preparation, could not always get access to some spaces. So we had to create opportunities for us to be able to thrive and to grow. And so I am a child of parents who purchased a home in Brooklyn, New York back in the 70s. And because they didn't have a whole lot of money, they ended up doing a lot of the carpentry and wiring and electrical and plumbing themselves. And this is way before the World Wide Web. It's before YouTube University. They had
Right.
to figure things out. And that sparked and gave birth to many of the men in my family becoming carpenters, and they would go out
Mhm.
and do jobs. And my father became he loved to cook. He was a chef. He loved to cook, and he was an entertainer. And he worked at a company, and they discovered that he was a chef level, and all of a sudden became the chef. So he had a small business before small business was even a concept or idea,
Wow.
And so I think I've been nourished by small business, by entrepreneurism my entire life. I've always thought about ways. I used to joke about, having more hustles than anyone you can think, coming up, because we had to, right? We had to make ends meet. I was not a child. I grew up with privilege of love, support, and
Mm,
care. And in that instance, I was incredibly privileged to have parents who really wrapped themselves around me to ensure that I was taken good care of. I was watched, I was nurtured. Um, but we didn't have money.
right.
We
Right.
were the opposite of rich. We did not have money. And so we had to always figure it out. And I remember food stamps being a part of our life, despite the fact
Mhm.
that both my parents worked.
Yeah.
Both my
I
parents
understand.
worked all the time. My brother and I, we like to joke, we were latchkey kids before latchkey was a concept,
There you go.
which is, the oldest child would get the key to the house with a string on a chain that they wear under their clothes. And at the end of the school day, you all would walk home, and you'd open that door, you'd go inside said door into your home, and you would not open that door again.
That's right.
And so this is what we grew up on while we watched our parents work so very hard, and
Mm,
find ways to supplement their income in order to make ends meet. So that's what I grew up understanding as a way of being.
yeah. No,
So,
I
you know,
totally understand. I was the same way. Parents both worked, but for my sister and I, we had a running joke. The first person home had to be the one to cook dinner. And
oh,
my sister, God rest her soul, always made sure that I was the first person home. So I always
of
had to
course,
cook.
that sounds like a plan.
Yeah, hilarious, hilarious.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing those intimate moments. Thinking back to our childhood and remembering how we grew up and just really honoring that legacy that our parents gave us is
Yeah.
just so very, very important. And I know
Yep.
that's important in the work that you do. So I just want to, ask you, can you think of a defining moment in your
Mm.
career that really solidified? You talked about your family growing up having small businesses before you even knew you were going to be in this role. So talk about divine intervention.
Mhm. Mhm.
What was a defining moment that really solidified your commitment to wanting to advance opportunities for women and minority-owned businesses?
All right, so this is going to be a little bit of a roundabout.
Okay.
Just let me warn you. I'm going to warn your audience. This is a roundabout, because I tell folk all the time, as an adjunct professor for almost a decade, I tell folk that you come to leadership maybe two to three pathways. You are tapped, someone believes in you, and you're going to go forward. You are injured
Mm,
or hurt by leadership, and you want to right the wrong, or you are inspired by leadership and you want to replicate.
amen.
In my instance, it was kind of the second. Um, there was I'm a planner, I'm a strategist. I always I think to solve problems all the time. And so as a teacher, I noticed that we had a lot of children who were chronically absent. They were overage and undercredited. And so I created a program in Queens, New York for this group of children. It's about, probably 100 children at that time. And it was called PM School. And
Hmm.
PM School integrated the arts and literacy, math and science, project based learning. And we did all these wonderful things. And they were 100% attendance in PM school. For them, school started at around 12 o'clock and
Right.
went till 6 o'clock. Or
Hmm.
some days it was 2 to 6, but it was a later day. And these young people really began to thrive in this program. And just when it was at its height, and we gotten promotion data and we got assessment and testing data, and it was going really, really well, that program was snatched out of my hands,
Oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
And remember, I told you there's three ways you kind of find your inspo, right?
Mhm.
And I was told at that time, well, you don't have the credentials, to lead this program. I was like, but I've been leading this program for a
Right.
couple of years now. It's doing really well. And so that was what solidified for me, like you've got to, God is giving you inspiration, and you have creativity and you have the intellect and the talent, but you need all the rest of the stuff so that what you
Mhm.
produce is not taken out of your hand.
That's right.
And so I ended up going into the Leadership Academy. I got the credentials. I wrote a new school proposal, which was my first business. I'm going to
There you
call
go.
that my first business, right? I wrote a new school proposal that had to be passed by, many, many levels in the city of New York, but it was finally approved by the mayor's office, by the chancellor's office, and I got to become the principal of the Renaissance School of the Arts, a
Wow.
school that I wrote into existence. That is my first business.
That sure is your first business.
It's
You
my
better say
first
that again.
business.
That's right.
Yeah, that was my first business, and I had to do everything. Most people come into a school and there's a closet somewhere with a bunch of materials, and there's teachers, and there's this. We didn't have anything but my official letter. That's what I had.
Wow.
And I went home and I produced materials, marketing materials on my home computer, printed them, went to Staples, got a bunch of stuff, put it in my trunk, and I went into the area and I handed things out. I went to churches, I talked to people. But that for me was that first like breaking ground in what it takes to really build a strong business, a business that is sustained. And that school is still in existence today and it is
Look at that.
thriving. Because I served for almost 10 years as the first principal, the principal I turned it over to served for a good amount of years. So it's been around a long time and it's only had three principals. So it's a
Wow.
stable school that is doing incredibly well. That has become, it really is like a foundational piece for how I try to support small businesses in building a strong foundation and upskilling to gather the talents and things that the knowledge that they need in order to build a business that is sustainable, right? So we don't build for what is needed today. You got to be able to see into the future. And so that's a lot of what we do, with the small businesses that we support.
Wow.
That's the initial
That's
inspiration.
amazing. And that is
Yeah.
such an amazing legacy for you to have to, say that
Yeah.
you started that school, that you wrote it,
Hmm. Yep.
and as
Wrote it
your
into
first
existence.
business, and to see how strong a foundation you've built, that there have only been three leaders
Yep.
is really a testament to your leadership.
Yeah, and it's a special place. It was a special place from its very beginning. That school was fashioned as a pre-conservatory, and y'all hold me with this. I have had a lot of different iterations of myself, and the first and lasting one is as a professional performing artist, and something I've done since I was 8 years old, and that school was intended to be a pre-conservatory school that would feed into
Mhm.
the LaGuardia, the music and arts of the world, the Frank
Yep.
Sinatras of the world. And so we did a lot of work to support young people from El Barrio, the in East Harlem, to
Right.
to believe to believe that they could actually get to this next step in their lives. And you know this, Dr. D, the technical part is one thing. The part of changing hearts and minds and convincing people that they can do what they never even imagined, that's the work.
That is the work. Tammy, you are speaking as if you were watching us today. So, viewing audience, today we recorded a podcast focused on rebranding yourself and how
Ooh.
rebranding yourself is really a mindset shift. So, I can't wait to show that. It's going to launch
Oh
tomorrow at 12
man.
noon. It's just me talking into the camera for about an hour about rebranding me. So, thank
Mm.
you for that confirmation, Dr. Tammy.
Oh my, I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, hold on a second. You're airing at 12 o'clock?
12 o'clock
Radio.
tomorrow. We just
All
recorded
right.
it today.
Audience, I am actually programming my phone and putting this in my calendar because I don't know about you. I do not want to miss it. Look at
Yeah,
it.
you you
I
you
got
just
it.
gave, you just gave us confirmation. So that's a good segue into our next question because you talked about having the credentials,
Mhm.
and experience to lead something, but then being told, unfortunately, that you did not, but you didn't let that stop you. You went back and got the official credentials that were
That's right.
needed. You wrote a curriculum, a program, developed a school that is still in existence. But we know as women, this is Women's
Mhm.
History Month, right? And also as women of color, that we definitely experience some challenges. We experience some pitfalls that are not
Yeah.
necessarily related to us or anything that we have done, anything that we're lacking, but related to society. So, if you could talk to us about
Mm.
your biggest challenge that you have faced as a woman of color in your leadership, and what you have done to overcome it or overcome them, whatever you would like to tell us about that topic.
Wow. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Okay, so you all are probably gonna get more of me than you thought you would get. One of my the biggest challenges was the fact that when I opened my small school, I was also divorcing my spouse. And it was, you don't make a decision. I think I explained to you all that I came up in a very traditional way,
Yes,
very, very traditional way. And, these folk, when they made a decision and walked down the aisle, they meant it.
that's right.
And I meant it. And so it took a very long time to make a decision, a very difficult decision to no longer be married. At the same time and simultaneously, I was opening this new small school.
Hmm.
And there were a million challenges because just grappling with, beginnings and endings, right? Endings and beginnings is enough to kind of have your head in a tailspin.
Right.
But at the same time, I was trying to manage and reconcile a lot of big emotions while also trying to onboard and support the little city that became Renaissance School of the Arts.
Yes.
And so there was lots of pushback, as you can imagine, a young woman, trying to do what had never been done before. I was, for those of you who know, I think they do it still today, but back in the day when you opened a new small school, you was always seated in a space that was also closing an historically
Mm.
unsuccessful school.
Wow.
Now, I don't think they do that as much now, but back when I was a new principal, you literally had to start your school in the rubble of a school that had not closed yet. It was phasing out. So it
Mm.
was like death by a thousand cuts,
Right. Right.
right? And you had to figure out how to get people um, moving in the same direction and also working on a campus that had a lot of like very contentious energy. Folk were angry. You can understand that. Teachers were
Hmm.
scared. They're losing their jobs. And here you are with your balloons like, we're open. Be excited for us. Oh my goodness. And then the
Right.
backdrop was the bonfire of my relationship.
Mm.
And so it was very challenging to reconcile the leader that I wanted to be as a new principal while also making peace with the woman that I was, who
Right.
was experiencing a huge shift with her three little kids, by the way,
Hmm. Yeah.
in that moment. So that was hands down one of the most challenging leadership times because you you really had to kind of split yourself in half, but you and I know that that's not a long game. It's not the long game. Like you
Right.
literally cannot do that. It's not sustainable. You'll drive yourself crazy. You
Right.
have to be whole in every place that you are. And that's
Amen.
with a lot of therapy, it gets you there for sure. A whole lot of prayer, it gets you
Absolutely.
there. And so that to me, I think was the most challenging part, maintaining and holding the humanity and the strength and the focus and determination for people as you convince them to trust you and to follow you, right?
Right.
Not easy, not easy, while also dealing with that other stuff in the backdrop.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. That definitely, when you were going through, life challenges and major life challenges, and that
Yeah.
definitely is something that you don't expect going in,
Right.
to do that at the same time in your leadership and
Yeah.
leadership in a big way, that's challenging. So thank you for sharing and thank you for being brave and
Yeah.
going through that. I'm going to switch gears a little bit,
Mhm.
and let's talk about the economy.
Oof.
And, we have a new administration in the White House. We
True.
have a lot happening in New York City, the largest city in the
Hmm.
country, such an important role you have in MWBEs and how that impacts our economy. So if
Yep.
you can just talk to us a little bit about, for people who are not familiar with MWBEs, what they
Hmm.
are, and why they're so critical to
Hmm.
economic empowerment in New York City, for example, but also because they focus on minority and women and how
Yep.
we can help minorities and women by really elevating MWBEs.
Sure. So, minority and women owned business enterprises is a certification class. And the first thing I always have to say to people is because I'm a minority does not mean I'm an MWBE. Because I'm a
Hmm.
woman does not mean I'm an MWBE. It makes me qualified, but you got to go through a process, right? And you got to
Right.
file for certification. Dr. D, you know this. You got
Yes.
all your certifications locked and loaded.
Yes.
I salute you for doing
Thank
all that
you.
you've been able to do. But that's the first part. The first part is we talk to folk about what does that certification look like and how do you obtain it. And there is a process, and a lot of folk get lost in it. So I always tell them, you need to avail yourself of your resources, and there's a ton of resources, you guys. My office is one resource, right? But there's also all of the chambers of commerce across the city who offer
Hmm.
supports to you for free because they are part of taxpayer dollars. So please
Right.
avail yourself of that. But speaking about the economy, I have this deck I'm trying to access while we're having this great conversation. I want to ensure that you all know some of the cold hard facts about the economy of this city.
Yeah.
Um, $117 billion is what it takes to run the city of New York
Wow.
annually. That's a big number.
That's huge.
It's a huge number. New York City Public Schools occupies a third of that. A third of that
Mm.
budget, $38 billion, is the operational budget for New York City Public Schools. And
Wow.
so we're talking about a lot of zeros and a lot of commas with regards to what it takes to run a city. The fuel, the diesel, whatever it is you put in your vehicle, that feeds and allows this machine to run, it's taxes.
Yeah.
And that's taxes is from real estate taxes, it's from lottery taxes, it's from the taxes that small businesses pay. And all of those generated and revenues that come, all of that money contributes to New York City being able to do what it does for the people of New York, right? A very small amount of the money comes from the federal government, you all. So, you know, I'll get into that other subject later, but um, we have the majority of what we need to run this city, we generate internally, right? And
Right.
then we have this really interesting fact around like the percent of businesses that are minority or women owned, and the lion's share of those businesses are, in fact, minority or women owned because small business tend to be community based,
Yep.
local based. And if New York City is predominantly over 75% minority or women, then you know that what comes out of that is businesses that reflect that
Right.
same percentage. And another fun fact that women owned businesses are increasing two times the rate of male owned businesses. So it's a fun fact during Women's History Month,
Absolutely love that.
right? We kind of love that because
Yes.
Dr. D came on. Boo, 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 boo.
Yes,
I had that little
absolutely.
air horn. That's my air horn. That's my invitation air horn. There you go. And so that's a major part of how this city runs, you all, which is why we have this huge focus on small business.
Right.
We have partnered, my office has a partnership with a couple of really, really big supply chain companies, right? And they really try hard to support small business. But it does not matter how many dollars they make, they still don't contribute as much to the local economy
Mhm.
as the small local barbershop, hair salon, laundromat, grocery store, all of these different spaces, right? Like the printing shop, all of these, those spaces contribute more to local economies than the big box stores
Yeah.
all day, every day. But
Mhm.
we give a lot of our money to those big box stores. And so part of my campaign is to highlight and showcase small businesses doing the exact same or better
Right.
product
Well,
and
better.
service, or better, because they're closer to the challenge, so they understand it at a different level. So they do the exact same work or better, and we need to figure out how to increase our dollars and our spending to small businesses.
Yeah.
So what we do inside New York City Public Schools is we've set utilization goals. Every city agency has to meet a 30% utilization goal for minority and women owned businesses, right? Those businesses that have that certification. And so we have to find opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. For example, today I ran a workshop with the regional directors for it's called STH, Students in Temporary Housing.
Mhm.
And they were shocked to hear strategies for how we can utilize these small local businesses,
Wow.
right? We've got
Yeah.
homeless children who may not have access to kitchen. They don't have access to kitchens. If you're in a
Right.
shelter, you don't have a kitchen. So how do you eat? How do you get hot food during the weekends?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we gave them strategies around how they can use local restaurants and pay them with taxpayer money, which is what they get paid with anyway. So don't get excited.
Right.
In order to, one, support the small business, also support families and children, also support the local economy. It's all good. That's the work.
Right, that's the work. And that's what we want to do. I remember when I was in city government and working in nonprofits, we definitely wanted to make sure that we contracted with the small businesses and the ones in the communities that we served,
Yes,
make sure we
yes.
supported them, and we were able to help them because it's just so important to utilize our small businesses to really have more equity in our
Yep,
communities, especially in those areas where we know we have great disparities, not just in income, but in health
that's right.
status and educational attainment. So I applaud you for this work that
Yeah.
you're doing. Um, and as a city, I went to one of the State of the City addresses, and I know the mayor and a lot of people in city council are doing exactly what you said, ensuring that we support small businesses much more. What kind of advice would you give to women who want to break into this market? Right, they want to start up their own business. They have ideas.
Mhm.
They're baking cakes at home, but they're delicious,
Mhm.
and everyone wants to get them. They're sewing. They can do hair. They can, open a
Mhm.
store. They can open a franchise, right? Which are not small businesses, but
Mm.
still we have these talents and gifts that we don't utilize.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
from your experience and what you see as some of the things that may be hindrances and stop people from thinking that they can do it, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. First of all, you got to know. And here's the thing: I used to tell my children, and not suggesting that small business owners are children, but I'm gonna talk to you from the support and nurturing lens. I
Hmm.
used to say to them, it is my job to dream for you until you've lived enough to dream for yourself. With
Love that.
regards to yeah, with regards to lead women or any small business, potential small business owner, connect yourself in spaces where folk are doing it,
Right.
and allow that to nourish your creativity, your thought process, your lens to see, to recognize a problem and then propose the solution. That's really, really very
Hmm.
interesting. That a young man said that at a event the other day. And he said that someone else said it to him. And I was like, we say this all the time. Some of the most successful businesses solves the problem. Some
That's
of the
right.
super successful businesses create the problem and then solve the problem.
Right.
And he gave the example of Apple. And you all remember when we used to buy a cell phone? It would also come with all kinds of little goodies, including the wired earpiece.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
Remember, it used to come with that?
Yes.
And then what did Apple do? It
Yes.
created a phone with no port.
Right. So it doesn't come with anything now, not even
It
the
created a
port to
problem,
charge.
right? Created a problem. And then they launched the AirPod,
Yep. Very
right?
strategic.
Very strategic. So I would say to those who are aspiring entrepreneurs and aspiring business owners, you have to put yourself in spaces and places. And I'm telling you, if you just go and visit Eventbrite or any of the online spaces that, curate events and things, you can find 10 on any day.
Right.
Put yourself in places where there are other entrepreneurs or other think tanks or other spaces in the areas that you want to explore. Walk around, talk to people, get business cards, follow up with a hey, thanks, it's great. It was great meeting you. I'd love to have a conversation. Allow that to water and fertilize your seed, the seed that you're trying to birth out of you. You cannot sit at home and just sit on social.
Right.
And it's really easy to do that. Let me tell you, because sometimes I come home, I'm really, really tired, and I'm just like, what funny thing will I see?
Right.
And you
Yeah.
look up, and it's an hour has passed.
Right.
You have to get out, you have to be a part. I'm going to send you Dr. D, I'm gonna send you. It's hopefully you'll be able to open it. It's the photo right now, the flyer for our program called Expand You,
Oh,
and
great.
my office has a program that is launching next week. Oh Lord,
Awesome.
Woo! I'm telling you, it's a lot going on. It is launching next week, and the whole point behind this program is to help you upskill. So we contracted with industry experts, attorneys, financial houses, folk who have contracts across city agencies. So they've been doing this a really long time. They're going to support you in thinking through and understanding better the work, the business that
Right.
you want to explore. In addition to that, my team is always available for one-to-ones where we can talk to you about your business, give you ideas about like where to sort of focus your energy. We did a ton of those today. I'm telling you, by the time we left
Nice.
out there, we had done a ton of coaching around how you get your product or your service in front of folk who can pay for it.
Wow. No,
So
that's amazing. Great resources. I hope everyone is getting this. We'll put some things in the chat also so you can look at
mhm,
it later. But really great information and free resources that people can utilize to help
free.
them with their businesses. Let's talk to the shopper now for a minute. There's a
Okay.
lot of misconceptions about small businesses as far
hmm
as quality, time, and
hmm
service. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you see small businesses, MWBEs
Uh,
face, and how do we shift the narrative
yeah,
to
yeah,
empower people to not
yeah,
miss this opportunity and to
absolutely.
support our small businesses?
Absolutely. Sometimes movies come in my mind. I'm not going to go into this whole movie where the vampire was saying only what is known is safe. Do you all remember that scene from
Yes.
what was the movie?
What was that movie?
Twilight,
Oh, yes, yes.
right? Only the things that are known are safe. That was my imitation. No, I didn't
Good
nail it.
job.
Okay, fine.
You nailed it.
Um, but that is the challenge of small businesses. So because people don't know and you don't have the volume of testimony, they doubt
Mhm.
that this product or this service will be at the same quality. And I'm going to put bunny ears around quality
Right.
because here's a fun fact. No one began to talk about doing assessments of vendors until we launched MWBEs.
Yeah, look at that.
So we've had vendors milking the system for decades,
Decades.
and no one has ever assessed. If I've got reading intervention 5 days a week, why can't Billy read?
Hmm.
We only began assessing when we started moving women into these opportunities, minorities into these opportunities. And so that is like hardwired into some people's minds. And so they doubt the quality of
Right.
service or product initially. And so a lot of what we do is tell the story, especially the success stories. So if you ask any of the vendors who affiliate with my office, they'll tell you, oh, Dr. Pate often asks us to send like praise reports, right? To
Mhm.
tell us when something is going well. Or if a principal sends them a letter and says, you know what, this was really just a game changing opportunity and experience. This was really great. I will throw that into our newsletter. Our newsletter is called the Open Exchange. And so I'll put it into the newsletter because we have to get good press out there, right?
Yes.
Like we
Yes.
don't have Yelp right now for small businesses, but we do try to do a good job of promoting when things are really, really great. We also do a really good job of mitigating like any harm or risk. Like if something didn't quite work out, we want to get in front of it and say, well, what is the challenge? How do we support and how do we deliver on what you've promised to deliver? And so we have not had the opportunity, they have not had an episode where a school or an office has purchased a service or a product and they've not delivered. And I'm
Yeah.
happy to say that because of the level of
Absolutely.
support that we're giving. We also coach people. Like you would be surprised. I know it's your business. I know it's your baby, but most of them can't give the 60-second elevator pitch,
Right. That's important.
right? So we've got to coach them on what are you, who are you, what do you do, what's special about your service or your product,
Right.
and you got to get it like that. And so that's some of the work that we have to do in order to dispel this idea or fear of new,
Mhm.
because people will stick
Absolutely.
to something even if when it's horrible,
Right. Just because
even when it's
it's
horrible.
common.
But it's
Right.
just here. We've been doing it forever. Okay, I mean, all right. Well, listen, no, no, no. That's just how it is. When you come in, you just gotta you gotta tweak the lessons. You gotta tweak the curriculum. Well, there's some errors in the book, but we can correct it. But why are you settling for that? Why do
Right.
you settle for that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
That's so
it's a
important.
new day.
Yeah. It's a new day. That's so so important. Dr. Pate, you have so much knowledge about MWBEs and about education in general. You have really been a strong advocate. You have a strong legacy in this space. As you continue to move forward in your career, what would you like for your legacy to be? And you've
Wow.
already established it, honestly, but
Yeah.
tell us what is it that you want to accomplish? What when someone says Dr. Tammy Pate,
Hmm.
New York City Department of Education, Board of Education, how long ago that was. What is it
Yeah.
that you want people to know about you and what you've done to help New York
Hmm.
City?
Yeah. I think someone said this to me. Someone asked me that question, and I know a lot of folk, we women that right now, we multi hyphenated, as they say. We got jobs on top of jobs on top of jobs,
Yes.
right? And we doing a lot. Um, but, I'm a child of missionaries
Mhm.
and I'm a child of ministers. And I myself was a minister at a period of time.
Mhm.
And I have a very strong service muscle. And if you don't do anything else on planet Earth, you had better leave your space better than how you found it.
Mhm.
That
Amen.
to me, that my mother used to sing that song all the time. If I can help somebody as I travel along the way, then my living is not in vain.
Not in vain.
Um, I know this sounds really weird, and I'm not going to tell you that lights, camera, action doesn't look good, feel good. I like it. I was at a celebration this weekend. It's wonderful. It really is wonderful. But I'm gonna tell you 100,000%, it is not what gets me up in the morning.
Mhm.
This
Yep.
morning I was tired,
You got an award last night.
and did 5 events this weekend. The
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
Right? So very tired. But there was an opportunity today that I made a commitment. So this Queens girl by way of Brooklyn, your word is your bond. You keep your word.
Right.
You keep your word. So I don't care how tired I was. There was an opportunity to help people who have influence, to help them understand the urgency to support small businesses and then to give them technique and strategy to do it. That's the work. For
Right.
me, I want people to say, you know what? Look, that girl, she grinds it out.
That's right.
She gonna keep her word. And if she says she's gonna do something, she's gonna do it. And folk, this thing, this little bubble, this circle right now has to be better than how I found it.
Amen.
So I got to tell you, let me drop this little one for y'all. When I launched this office of business development,
Mhm.
utilization in New York City public schools for women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses was about 5.5%. 5.5% of $12 billion. 5.5% of $12 billion.
Wow.
Today, we're at 25%.
Look at that.
2 years.
Yep. 2 years.
You leave it
Amazing
better,
work.
y'all. So we gotta, like, that's the work. That is the work, and not a dollar of that goes into these pockets over here. But I'm telling you, those resources are funneling into our communities. And because children have better economies that they exist in, they come to school better prepared, they perform better,
Yes,
they're
absolutely.
graduating at greater levels, they're going to college.
Mhm.
And that's how we get to legacy. We got 400 years behind
That's
others.
right.
400 years behind others. So we got to double time it in order to get to the legacy level for
Absolutely.
our children and for our future.
So true. So true. I remember a quote, and it escapes me right now who it's by, but it says that service is the rent we pay
That's
to
right.
live, to be here on earth. It's
Mm,
all about service, and that dash in between your date of birth and your date of death. What does that dash say? What did you
what does the dash
contribute
say?
to
Oh, it's
society?
powerful.
So yeah, really powerful.
Go on,
Thank
Doc.
you so
I
much,
like
Dr.
that.
Pate. This has been such a great conversation. You are so
I know.
knowledgeable, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to our audience. We have to get you in
Yeah.
the studio one day
Oh, I
outside
cannot
of Women's
wait.
History Month
I
to just
cannot
really sit
wait.
down and chat with us. Any last words? What would you like to leave? Some you dropped
Yeah.
so many gems already, but any nugget, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'm going to tell y'all, as the world that we know it is changing right before our eyes, this is your time.
Mhm.
The carpe diem. This is the moment for you to make and keep a commitment to yourself. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you got this idea cooking and you're like, oh, I really want to do X, Y, and Z, you at your 9 to 5, but you're thinking about and you're noting and you're jotting down, you're not going to get a better time than right now.
Right.
While chaos is going on over there, you make a commitment.
Right.
You find your niche, you find your people. Find us.
Mm.
Open for business at schools.nyc.gov. Our email address is open, the number 4 business at schools with an S dot nyc.gov. Let us help. Let us help you. We can point you in a direction. We can have a conversation and talk you off of, one top of mountain and get you over to the other one. This is attainable. This is what you can do. Here's how we can help. Let us support you in growing your business.
Wow. Great advice, great support. Thank you again, Tammy. I appreciate you, my sister.
Thank you, Dr. D. This is a really precious opportunity. I thank you for your patience with me. Thank you for allowing me to talk to your audience, and just be a part of this amazing movement. Y'all better check out Dr. D. This is our Oprah. Hello.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So thank
We
you.
thank you so much. We have a lot more happening. Thank you, audience, for joining us on the Debrief with Dr. D, where we have real talk, real strategy, and real leadership. I look
Yeah.
forward to our next episode. But until then, have a wonderful evening. Good night,
Thank
Dr.
you. Thank
Tammy.
you. Thank you, everybody. Bye. So cool.